for you. Nothing wrong with that. It's very good. All right. Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday edition of TechMasters. I'd like to welcome our president, Mr. Vince Pullinger.
Thank you, Mohammed. If you could all please join me in rising up, and if you care to do so, please help me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and saluting our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's timer, I believe, is Mohammed. Yes, Mohammed, do you have an opening invocation for us?
Yes, I do. Losers mistake activity for accomplishments. Winners know that accomplishment is the result of activity.
We all be seated. Do we have the previous meeting's minutes, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, we do. Previous meeting minutes. Our business meeting was short and sweet. All we had was really announcements. It was a Speechcraft-based meeting. Our Toastmaster was Vince. Table topics was Loris. Invocation timer was Loris. It was Marion, and general evaluator was Clea. Our Speechcraft speeches were Jonathan's. I don't have the titles. I'm sorry. 4 minutes 39 seconds. Chris, 5 minutes 26 seconds. Marie, 5 minutes 45 seconds, and Joe T, 3 minutes 25 seconds. I had a speech for 4 minutes 53 seconds. Jesse evaluated me 1 minute 30, and we had the wise old owl awarded to Marie.
Thank you, Will. Skip old business for now. Kind of running them anyway. New business. Anybody have any new business for us?
Mr. What would it be, Sergeant of Arms?
President.
Mr. President. I have an item to bring up, and that is typically during the holidays, we make a donation to the host facility where we are meeting at. We make a donation in their name to a food bank or something like that. I bring it up. I know that they have a favorite charity. I don't recall what it was from last year, and we should start planning because we're almost in November. Mr. President.
Thank you, Loris. I wholeheartedly endorse that. I will say one thing, that in my years as treasurer, I feel that it's great that people want to help out, but I also think it's a little weird to say vote with the collective money. I'd rather pass out a hat, to be honest. Say, hey, what do you want to add? What do you want to add? But that's an area for debate. I guess we're going to table it right now because business would typically involve an action item of some kind. Any other announcements? I'll bring it up next time because I think we should have more people for debating that.
Announcements.
Yes. I will table that.
Ignite Minneapolis.
Yes.
Tickets go on sale tonight. This is the second round. I don't know if you've heard of Ignite. It's 5 minutes. You get 20 slides, and your slides move automatically. It's a pretty cool thing, especially for speakers like us to go see. Like I said, tickets go on sale tonight at 7. They go very, very fast. You literally have to hit F5 until it says ready for tickets. They're $15 a piece. If anybody wants me to buy some for them, I'm willing to do that, but I think you only get to buy like maybe 4 or 6. I'll send out an announcement. I will do that. Hope to see you guys there.
Is it temporary? Or?
Nope, it's all over the board.
All over the board. Interesting. Is it based sort of like on TikTok in some way? Or?
Kind of. The thing is that you get PowerPoints and they automatically advance every 15 seconds.
Really?
So you're forced to keep your presentation moving. I'll send it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to email on that. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah. That's a great announcement that you made during your business. Slightly out of order. Just getting around, give it a little bit of a hard time. All right. So moving along here, are there any other new business? How about announcements? Anything to add?
You said it, no? So I stood up.
Yes, sounds like you're not. All right,
You're out of order, sir.
All right, so as far as announcements are concerned, we went to Twin Cities Co-Camp this past weekend, and we had a very good turnout. I think there were at least a few dozen people there, if I recall correctly. And we also had a booth there as well. As far as what happened there, we had a bunch of people sign a guest book, and we had a ton of people show a lot of interest. And also I met with a guy from the software guild. If you have seen the other booths there was a company called the Software Guild, very similar to Prime Academy. And he said that it would be a good idea for us to partner. So it's possible that we have maybe some kind of partnership between us and TechMasters, and maybe get some of their new students into our club in order to help them work on their soft skills. That. Mini webcon call for speakers, and this is Friday, Hackers and Founders. That's another thing where it sounds really cool, but they do it on Thursday nights when my wife is working late and I have to watch the kids. Also, it's at a bar or brewery, which is weird when you don't drink. So I won't be going, but I suggest it to those who may imbibe and those sorts of things. Midwest PHP, again, here to that thing, with call for speakers ends in November. And again, NIST.conf, that's the Minnesota Internet Security Summit. So sounds like a pretty interesting conference for some people who aren't here right now. And I think that would be it. Anything else anybody wants to add? All right. I think that before we go into our break, typically we like to introduce our guests, and we have two guests who have trickled in. Hello, sir. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us what brought you here.
Sure. I was at the, my name is Mel. Thank you for having me. I was attending the TechMasters host that they hosted at the Twin Cities Book Camp. Thought I'd give it a try.
Thanks for showing up. It's like crowd. I would say the last few weeks we've had countless number of people. It's a little weird. Maybe people will be trickling in. I know that 2 of the 5 Speechcraft participants, you don't know anything about Speechcraft yet, but 2 of the 5 Speechcraft participants are not going to be here today, so we're down to 3. So, David, you can lower your tie and just let it loose. Go for 6 minutes if you want it. Wow. So luckily, we won't be hurried like we have in the last couple of weeks. So, well, hey, we got time right now. Speechcraft is a kind of an onboarding seminar we started a few weeks ago, and everybody we've been doing it at 8 o'clock, so people start to trickle in a little bit later. And we have a normal business meeting at 7:40, and at 8 o'clock we'll be starting a Speechcraft meeting, which is very similar to a normal TechMasters meeting, but it's a little bit trimmed down and it's aimed toward new people. So we have 5 people, and you get one-on-one mentorship to kind of onboard you onto the process. So with that, I'm going to break, and at 8 o'clock we'll reconvene.
Could you repeat your name again?
Tim, Mel.
Tim.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Boris. Nice to meet you.
Again,
Yours?
I will make sure to emphasize that we have guests here, and of course, for all Speechcraft, since you don't know all their names anyway, probably by now, please put your name pinned up.
Yes, sir. Who are the speakers?
Hey, Tim. Good to see you.
Who are the speakers?
Anybody who's
Feel like we're in a circle. We're all standing. You want to lead?
We're looking for.
No.
For Roger.
What are your passions?
Roger and
One
what?
of my passions in life.
John, Roger, and-
All things
Oh,
tech.
okay.
John.
I like cycle.
And then who's elevators?
By or
They're advised.
No, not cycle.
Person will be evaluated. John. Person evaluated Tony. Person evaluated Roger.
Space,
Right.
sci-fi, and also, rabbit.
Did I give you?
rabbits?
Rabbit.
Raising them?
No, not raising those,
It's already 8 o'clock.
where there's a Minnesota Companion Rescue Society for rabbits. Society.
A rescue society for rabbits.
Yeah, basically, we deal with, companions.
Okay, all right.
A lot of people have therapy, rabbits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they get to go to a lot of places. It's much easier to use. And it's not therapy pets than dogs, because dogs require a lot more discipline. and training for.
Yeah, yeah, dogs are insightful.
So, absolutely, that's a great thing. Yeah.
This is our turn.
Fun, endeavor.
Yeah, I guess.
Every, we have Echo Valley, we have a little,
Pretty good crowd.
a very interesting social program for the animals there. the,
Oh, so there's no rabbits.
well,
I
there's
do it.
people that all have rabbits.
Oh, yeah.
And, and because of that, the Humane Society, it's a lot of
As of,
people come
Monday.
and see 100 rabbits on a floor in a gym. And I'm starting to become, even though I owned rabbits for about 3 or 4 years, starting to become a little bit more of a leader and educator. And developing more of my leadership.
I mean, that's
I'm
what
gonna try as much as possible.
Yeah.
To
Use that to plan my tech too, so.
So when you say.
Software design and development, starting to get into web development. So,
Congratulations.
yeah. I've been feeling left behind, so it's like, how do I get up to the web? Company that I'm working with.
Yeah, and.
Where I tried thinking, revitalize this technology that we have that's possible and completely right.
Well, who hasn't had a bad experience? Who hasn't had a bad experience? In the work world, who hasn't had a bad experience?
Yeah.
There's good experiences and there's bad experiences. And, you know, if you're 30 or over, there's no in your 20s. I mean, you have done good experiences and bad experiences.
Oh, yeah. I have definitely been. It came to a point where I was saying, work out on so I finally decided to find myself. It's amazing where you can, so.
You can't, and you don't have.
Absolutely, that's because there's a lot of opportunities out there, so.
I like the term from canoeing, I like the term Maytag. Maytag is when you're going down, like you're going down a stream and you jump over or whatever, it's sort of tumble. And it's like a dryer or washers or things tumble around. You got Maytag, I mean, that's an interesting word.
Yeah.
And life does that to you. You get Maytag, and come out either a worn bag or clean clothes. What do you do?
Right. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Tim.
Well, yeah. Probably ready that day or you take a look.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have a day. Somebody with Mike, no. That's close enough. I'll put a little piece of tape over the.
Alright.
I got a meeting after dude.
I didn't get dressed up this week, man.
I didn't change my work.
Because
I know that there's a lot of,
I like that.
there's a lot of materials available. It's made family ideas too, but mine also checks out and it's like, just thoughts, even like bringing to.
Ancient grocery store find here.
You're
gonna retire on ancient grocery store.
That's a good point.
Have you been to Central Market?
Yeah.
Already done.
Yeah, that's the king of Asian grocery store.
That's the king of somewhat commercialized. I'm talking about mom and pop, just came out and they opened up this tiny little grocery store. And it's there 1 week and it's gone. Because nobody knows. But the stuff that they get gets turned sugar. It comes from different warehouses.
And I think people would actually like that. Minus maybe the top down grocery.
There's a lot different.
Is there some federated thing?
Can't buy Thai base.
Can't
buy what? Can't buy Thai base. You can buy lemongrass.
Have you been in the new Hy-Vee? There's one in the local.
No, I heard about it.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Just check it out.
My mom actually did it. She was telling me about it. So, where were you?
It's called, it's like a grill.
Market grill.
Market grill. Part of the grocery store. Otherwise, it's sort of, as you say.
Could you,
Yes.
just send you an email.
And if you feel like
She post it as a PDF form, evaluation form. If you be down and
who's going to do, you know,
and just take notes that are recording them.
Coffee is
With PDFs,
and I would
last
go
page, other than the cover.
someone like, you want to fill in a PDF or put it out there. Someone like a CIO or a CTO.
Is evaluating you as an easy evaluation.
We are doing no formal evaluations.
Is there a program management office already?
And then he's evaluating you for.
For that project.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there will be no order. Although, if we have.
Let me ask you this, what other than this?
And you see a lot of things like high level sponsorship, you have the chance to report some standards, whereas much federated culture,
All right.
that tends to be a lot more ad hoc, and I think sometimes it's spending notes. Not bringing the outside.
I knew that one thing was. Maybe they're supposed to be here right now.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's only one person, just ask them.
I've got the number of the government parts here, you know,
Okay.
frequently.
Right.
You know, there's been 3 voting
And I'd like to get our meeting back up and bring our president back to the podium.
Thank you, Mohammed. All right. Welcome, everybody, to session 4 of Speechcraft hosted by TechMasters. It's slightly awkward. We have 5 Speechcraft participants. We currently have 1 here. So we're going to be a little more relaxed. We might take our topics off when it comes to giving our speeches. And we're going to open up table topics when we get to them, to non-participants. Today's timer is Mohammed. Mohammed, if you could explain your role and how you're going to be giving us your timings, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. My role as timer is to make sure that everybody is aware of the time allotted for their speeches. For Speechcraft, I'm going to do, it's going to be a 5-minute speech. I'm going to give you green at 3, yellow at 4, and red at 5. For other prepared speakers, it's going to be, for you, David, it's going to be a 4 to 6 meeting, speech. So I'll give you green at 4, and 5, yellow at 5, and red at 6. For your speech, Vince, it's going to be a 5 to 7 minute speech. So I'll give you green at 5, yellow at 6, and red at 7.
And what about tabletop answers?
Tabletop answers are going to be 1 to 3. No, 1 to 2 minutes. All right, 1 to 2 minutes. I'll give you a green at 1, yellow at 1:30, and 2. You'll get a nice red placard.
What about my evaluation, Jonathan?
Well, thank you. Great question. For evaluations, I will give you a green for 2 at 2 minutes, yellow at 2.5 minutes, and a red at 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you, sir.
As part of the TechMasters experience, we're here to improve in every area of communication and leadership, and one of those is definitely time. It's very important to stay on track, and it emphasizes the role and the importance of that role. Table topics. Today, our table topics master is Tony. Of course, we're here to focus on our prepared speeches and our evaluations and timings and things like that. But another very important part of communication is promptly speaking. whenever you're put on the spot, say something. Maybe if you're at an interview, if somebody asks you an awkward question at work, it'd be nice to be able to respond to that. Here to lead us through the table topic portion of the meeting is Tony Grisman.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. One of the things that we said as tech masters, we wanted to keep our topics a little bit technical. So in that sense, today I've got a couple different technical topics on the top of my brain. And I'm going to start with our one Speechcraft participant who's here today, Jonathan. Jonathan, every day somebody invents a brand new computer language, or maybe twice a day, I don't know. These days, these computer languages seem to be popping up all over. Which of the new languages is your favorite and why?
It's my favorite language and why. I can't say that I have any newer languages that I've really been getting into lately. I've been sticking with the tried and true C# for many years at this point. C#, SQL, JavaScript. JavaScript is probably the most recent one that I've gotten back into. It was that I used to do a lot more with JavaScript, especially when I was still in college taking classes. But as my career progressed, I tend to be stuck more in that middle back-end tiers where you're not really doing a lot of UI, it's much more at .NET and database languages. So I suppose Link would have been one of the more newer things that I had done during those years. With JavaScript, I like some of the things that they've been doing. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the fact that now that there are build tools, or building tools much like build for .NET projects, there are now others like build for JavaScript, things like that. So I've been enjoying kind of getting back into that, learning about that, but it's a lot to pick up after years and years of.
Thank you. Horace. One of the big buzzwords today is Internet of Things.
In the net of things?
Internet of Things.
Internet of things.
And that goes to things like these little things that a lot of us wind up wearing on our wrists, or there's the thermostat that's connected to that's connected to your home network, your home networking device. Is there an Internet of Things object in your life that you cannot live without, and why?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. My Internet of Things is a very thin personal digital assistant, formerly known as PDA. I don't have a smartphone. Instead, my Internet of Things, my high-tech device, is a piece of paper. And a piece of paper is what I keep track of things on. It's always available. You don't have to turn it on, and it's paper thin. So this is my Internet of Things. I think sometimes we get hung up too much on devices. Devices eat time. They eat time up, and I'm for really fewer devices rather than more. I'm aware of that you can monitor smoke alarms in your house and whatnot remotely. There's more and more things like that with each month. But do you really want that much more information? Don't lose track of what's important in life. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. William. Cortana, Siri, Google Now. Which voice recognition technology do you like the best? Do you use any, and why?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master. In regards to Cortana or Google or Siri, I'm going to defer on that question. I'm going to answer Jonathan's question. What is the most interesting language that I've looked at? New language? There was a discussion that I caught over Twitter on a programming language called Arnold C. It was a C programming language written in the style of Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes. And what caught my eye was a issue that was filed on, someone wrote, "Get to the chopper," CHOPPER. And there was a long discussion on how that should be, instead of "get to the chopper," it should be "get to the chop up," CHOPPAH. And I started looking into this, and of course it's a joke. But it was really interesting, and it was really fun to hear all these discussions and to see all these different quotes from various Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, such as "Hasta la vista, baby." That was like the end of your program. "It's not a tuma" was the negation operator, that kind of thing. Very, very funny. You should check it out. Arnold C.
Muhammad. Well, I'm going to, since we skipped the last question, I'm going to repeat that. Cortana, Siri, Google Now, any other voice technology. Is there a voice technology that you like and why?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master. Fellow TechMasters and welcome guests. Is there a voice recognition technology that I like? I like the concept of it. I really enjoy the sci-fi aspect of it, especially when you think about Iron Man or any space futuristic drama, whatever, action, sci-fi thriller. You see a lot of that. Sci-fi has influenced a lot in the development of these technologies because they gave you a vision of what you could expect in the future. I mean, even if you think back to the Jetsons and jetting around with microwaves and food just getting prepared and things like that, we're kind of getting there. But as far as voice recognition technology, I don't think I have a preference. I like the concept of Amazon Echo, it being there, but I don't like the fact that it's always on listening. There are tons of ways you can improve your life with things like that. Like, for example, one of the things that I love doing before getting out of the house with my kids when I drop them off is I check weather, and I usually check it with my phone, or now I can just say, "Hey, what's the weather going to be like?" Or, "Do I need an umbrella?" Then I'll ask the kids, "Do you have your umbrellas?" You need to put them in. It helps in that fashion in my life, but I don't have a favorite one. I will say that Google's voice recognition technology is a lot better than anybody else. Like, for example, if you do Google search and you press the little mic and say, "What time is Home Depot open until?" it'll bring you the timings and give you an option to call or whatever. You do that on Safari or use Siri or somebody else, it will just get you to a generic site of results of what Home Depots are there. I mean, I asked a specific question and it gave me a specific answer. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you, Mom. Jesse. Self-driving cars. They're coming. In fact, just last week, Tesla announced their autopilot system, so it's closer than we may think. Are you looking forward to it, and why?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Semester. I am actually looking forward to it very much. I absolutely love traveling, but the part of traveling that I don't like is traveling, actually. I like reading books. I like watching internet podcasts or webcasts. I like listening to podcasts. I like doing a lot of things that don't involve actually being in a car, but I love the whole idea of actually going places. So this is really going to help me a lot in that way. They definitely have a lot to work on. It sounds like there's some bugs in some of the latest things that you're talking about with Elon Musk and stuff. I think Google and I forget the name of the company, but Elon Musk's company anyways, I think that those two kind of bounce off each other and they play off each other well and hopefully provide a lot of good competition with each other. That's about all I have on it, but I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over back to our illustrious Toastmaster Vince.
Tony, so get to the point. Normally I'd allotted a lot of time, but apparently I'm not gonna have to use it, so I'm just gonna waste it. So I have one person introduced, and that will be Jonathan Owen, and he will not have, unless somebody triggers in the last 3 to 5 minutes, he won't have to introduce anybody. He'll just turn it right back over to me. Today's presentations are on Get to the Point. We talked about that last week, and today we'll be seeing how Jonathan Owen prepared this past week to tell us his general purpose and his secondary purpose for his speech. Please help me giving a warm welcome to Jonathan Owen.
Thank you, Mr. President, today's Toastmaster. Friends, guests, today I will be talking about cooking. I enjoy cooking, and to be specific, I'll be talking about cooking classes. After years of growing up with my mother's for cooking, and years of being in college in the dorms, working or using their cafeterias for my primary source of sustenance, I finally got a place of my own and realized I have a kitchen, and I'm not really sure what to do in it. So I signed up for cooking classes. I really feel that cooking classes can help anyone. They helped me so much. And 3 of the things that I guess I really learned that I think everyone could benefit from was knowing what kind of tools to use, nice skills, and then just having different ideas of what things you can cook. When it comes to cooking, having the right tools helps so much. When it comes to things like stir fries, you have to think about what types of pans are you going to do, and this applies really to any types of food. First off, I'm going to talk about how there are different types of materials for your pots and pans. There's going to be cast iron, there's going to be aluminum, and copper. Those are your 3 most common types of pans. Cast iron is great if you need to have something that stays at the same temperature, that it's not going to fluctuate in heat. So when it comes to stir fries, that's great because you always want it hot and you don't want to throw a bunch of food in the pan and have it suddenly cool off because the food is going to be cooler than the pan and the oil in it. Aluminum is kind of next. It's more responsive, and so if you start throwing things in it, it's going to probably cool off a little faster than cast iron is going to. But if you need to, say, turn the heat down because you're trying to make some kind of a sauce and you don't want to overboil it, you need to have better control on that. That's where copper comes in really well. It's going to conduct heat better than any other material, and because of that, it's going to ramp up heat very quickly and lose it very quickly. So if you need to have precise control on your stovetop, copper is going to be your best bet. As you can imagine, though, copper is kind of expensive. So most often people will defer to aluminum, and that's kind of what I have for my pots and pans. The other thing that I really found very helpful was knife skills. When it comes to cooking, I see so many people in the kitchen, my friends' houses, or even my own parents. They're going to grab the smallest blade that they can because that big chef's knife is scary. And they will try to cut whatever vegetables or meat they're doing in the most inefficient manner possible. And I just struggle with trying to step in and say, no, let me show you an easier way. One of those easier ways is becoming friendly with that chef's knife, knowing that you can actually grip it not just by the handle, but you pinch by the blade. Doing so allows you to have a lot more control. And furthermore, it makes it a lot easier when you're doing things like cutting onions. There are different ways, different techniques for cutting certain things that will make your life so much easier and will make you cry less over cutting onions. One of the other things to consider in going back to knowing your tools is the difference between, say, German-style knives and Japanese-style knives. There are German knives that are going to be much more durable, and the blades are going to be honed evenly on either side, whereas Japanese-style blades, they are much sharper, and they are kind of at a different angle. They're great for vegetables, and I really need to get one of those myself. Lastly, we have just the different ideas. You have your tools, you have your skills, now what do you cook? There are so many different types of cooking classes out there. You can do ones that are just demos where they showcase to you how to maybe cook something, or maybe they present to you on some kind of topic. They have the hands-on type of classes where you actually get in there and learn how to make things like pasta or dumplings, or how to work with pressure cookers. There are so many different types of classes, so many different subjects. It's really the hands-on one that I would recommend most. Lastly, there's the meet the chef type of classes. If there's that restaurant that you really like, sometimes those chefs will go to these cooking classes and they will present on all their food and they will even give you recipes. For many years, I did volunteering at Kitchen Window, and after college, it was through these volunteering classes, taking these actual classes, that I learned so much. I learned what tools to use, what skills to have, and different types of classes to take. I would encourage you all to take these cooking classes if you haven't already. To go with your loved ones. They're great. They're so helpful. Thank you.
John. All right. I'm John's advisor, so I'll be giving him an evaluation. All right. I really want to tell you that it was a very interesting speech. I was a little bit, at first I started to, there are basically two ideas. We need to talk about the general purpose and we need to talk about the specific purpose. The general purpose really seemed clear at first, then it started to get a little muddled. I thought you were trying to inform. I thought that was very obvious. You were giving us different tips and tricks and things like that. Toward the end, you started telling us about how you yourself were learning and how you thought it was a really good idea. And I almost started to think you were trying to inspire us, so I got a little worried at the end. But at first I wrote down, you're very definitely trying to inform us. You didn't even mention what your general purpose was, which you don't have to, of course. But I felt that really rang true. But then, like I said, I started to worry if you were trying to inspire us. So from the evaluation guide, and from everybody who's just watching, thinking, okay, that was a cool speech. And it was very interesting about cooking. But from this particular evaluation guide here in your Speechcraft book, started to get a little worried at the end. As far as the specific purpose, it seemed like you were trying to give us different ways of going about learning things. But then again, I started saying, well, again, what is this? I didn't hear a one-sentence summarized for explanation of what the specific purpose was. So I was trying to figure out, were you trying to give us an action item about how to go out and learn these things? Were you trying to give us an action item about trying to say, hey, this is a good idea, you should go do it from an inspirational perspective? So again, I don't want to rag on you too much, but we are, part of the evaluation is to make sure that we are trying to get the best out of people. And you come here because you want to improve. So from the perspective of this speech, it was a little bit worrying from how these things support the specific purpose. But otherwise, I felt that the organization was very good. You took all the lessons that you learned from the previous presentation that you gave, and you incorporated them very well. It flowed very nicely. I knew exactly what part you were going from part to part. It was very distinct, and from that perspective, it was very good. And let's see, what could the speaker have done differently? Like I said, I felt that the specific purpose is a little bit off, and the general purpose even started to slide a little bit. One thing I wanted to mention as far as what I liked about the presentation beyond the very good organization was that I noticed that you are starting to relax a little bit. Your cadence, your demeanor, your gestures, and your facial expressions are getting a little more relaxed. You're a bit tight person up here. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but a bit tight, and you're getting relaxed, and it's definitely working for you. So thank you for your very good speech on cooking, John. Right, so the next thing up on the docket here is gestures your body speaks. If you did not know, Speechcraft is not just something we did. I didn't make this up or anything. I didn't print these out, right? This is a giant worldwide Toastmasters International program, and we break down our international regions into districts, and District 6 is most of Minnesota and parts of Ontario, Canada, I believe. And the Speechcraft chair, the person who runs all these programs, the person with whom I spoke in order to get us going on this was Dave Rasmussen. And he is here as a guest speaker to give us the speech, Gestures Your Body Speaks. For the first of two educational presentations today, please help me give a warm welcome to David Rasmussen.
Actually,
My name is Mark Foley. I'm a motivational speaker. I live in a trailer down by the river. My club has several Chris Farley impersonators. Chris Farley knows how to speak with gestures. I want to talk about 3 important facts about gestures today. First thing, why do you need gestures? Is there any reason that a good speaker is going to need gestures? Any ideas?
To enhance the meaning of the words.
That's a good idea. I think one reason, though, that a speaker really needs to use gestures is because there's a lot of nervous energy that a speaker is going to have. And that energy is going to be expressed somehow. If you don't consciously use gestures, your energy is going to be used somehow. And it tends to be used in things like grabbing onto podiums or tapping your fingers or leaning, or I know one area governor last year who shook. And I think that's something that can happen for nervous reasons. When the person gestured, though, when that area governor was gesturing, consciously coming up with motions that matched what he was going to say, the shaking didn't happen. So first point about gestures is you need them just because otherwise you're likely to put that nervous energy in ways that distract. If you're capable of just standing very still, that's not necessarily a terrible approach. If you're giving a technical presentation and you want a lot of credibility, it's okay not to have a lot of gestures. But what you want to do is make sure that your gestures are conscious and you're not using nervous energy that's going to distract. There's math that says that you should be gesturing, and this is easy math. How fast can you read? How fast can you speak? I think the ratio is something like 4-to-1. So 20% of the content that's coming from me is based upon what I'm saying. 80% of the content that's coming from me, if you're paying attention and looking at me, is from my appearance, the pictures that I'm giving you, my gestures, vocal variety, that sort of thing. So from a mathematical perspective, you're technical people, you understand that gestures are very important. How can you put gestures into a speech? Here I'd recommend that you use topics that are active. Cooking, very nice topic. I noticed the gestures are actually pretty good and somewhat, they appear to be conscious in a lot of respects. So, Jonathan, I thought you got a good head start on gestures. If you're talking technical, I learned that in cars that people are actually using motions, programming in motions to tell a car what to do now. That might be a speech topic, if you know about that. I don't know much about that myself, but I heard somebody talk about it. Action, if you're a runner, and hit the wall in your marathon, there are numerous sports. You can call a meeting to order. If you can come up with conscious gestures, 1, 2, 3 conscious gestures, then that will add a lot to your speech and make it more memorable, and also keep your mind occupied such that you're not so nervous. 3 points. 1, you have nervous energy, you should try to direct it. Second, if you want to hold people's attention, you need to work consciously, not just on your words, but on your actions. Third, there's a lot of action-oriented topics. Action-oriented topics tend to be the does speeches anyway, so try to incorporate action into your speech. You don't need to be Mark Foley and lurch at people or give auditorium-sized gestures. You do need to think about gestures to be an effective speaker. Mr. Coordinator?
Thank you, David. I think we all know why he is running these things. Yeah, I guess I answer your question in this very technical, analytical way, like, what's a good reason to give gestures? Well, to enhance your speech. Well, is that really why people give gestures? I think what you said is very, very much right. We're nervous, we need to be able to channel that properly, and I hadn't even thought about it like that. So when you're speaking, realize that if you're fidgeting or something like that, try to channel it into something a little more useful. Moving on, evaluate to motivate. As we move along with Speechcraft, we've been adding in little wrinkles, and we're saying you're going to be doing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And hopefully come week 8, when we're all ready to hand it all over to the participants, it won't be Jonathan by himself. That'd be awkward.
One-man show.
Right, exactly. So tentatively, we will rename it the Jonathan Show. But in the meantime, hopefully we'll have all 5 people here. It'll make a lot more sense. But the wrinkle we're adding in this week is evaluations. So I won't have to do what I did earlier today. Somebody else will evaluate you. Unless, of course, nobody else is here, in which case I'll evaluate you anyway. But today's second educational top today will be given by myself, because that's what the coordination manual says I have to do that. If I want to be able to get credit for the advanced communicator gold, then I'm going to have to just do it for whatever. Let's just do it. Okay, so this is from the Successful Club Series. The Successful Club Series is a handful of speeches that are intended to improve the quality of the club meetings. It's to teach everybody, not only the existing members, but especially new members and guests, explaining what kinds of things that you can learn while in a Toastmasters program. Today's presentation will be on evaluate to motivate. Evaluations benefit speakers by providing immediate feedback. Providing immediate feedback is important. Not only do we want to go ahead and get up here and practice our presentation skills, but we want to be able to get that feedback. Yes, it's nice to be able to brush off our rust and be able to get more ready and used to speaking in front of people, but we want to be able to get that feedback right away. We want people to say, hey, here's what we saw was good. Go ahead and continue doing the things that worked. But here's some things upon which you can improve. Of course, we're here to improve ourselves. We're not here to be patted on the back. So we want to be able to hear some constructive, helpful criticism. And it being immediate is also really important, because you remember what you just did and what you just said, and your evaluator is going to be able to remember and retain a lot more of that. Offering methods for improvement. Like I said, you're not here to stay the same. You're not here because you're awesome. You're here because you want to be better. You're here because you want to work on your communication skills, and you're here because you want to work on your leadership skills. Building and maintaining self-esteem. Again, sure, we want to be critical, but we also want to remind you, hey, you know what, that thing you did? It worked out really well. Keep doing it. And if you recall earlier, I said, you know what I noticed, Jonathan? You are a little more relaxed, and that really works. And I think that if you continue to go in that direction, then you're going to be seen as a very good speaker, to be honest, because I think you're starting from a pretty good point as this. Evaluating by the tell and sell approach. Of course, I did not write this slide, and I did not name this approach. I find that awfully awkward. I don't know why they include the word tell. When the evaluator talks, the speaker listens. There's no selling. It's tell, you listen, you sit there. So the person who's doing the evaluation is kind of speaking from a position of authority. That works importantly for 2 reasons. One, you need to be able to sit back and not chime in or respond, because you're trying to get everything that the evaluator is trying to hear as they heard it. You're not trying to go back and forth or debate like, well, I meant to do. That's not the point. You're trying to find out how you came across to the other people. And secondly, we have a picture to run, and we kind of have to get things done. So just don't respond. If you need to, talk to them afterwards. How to evaluate effectively. Before the speech, talk with the speaker about things like manual objectives, evaluation guidelines, and any concerns. In a typical meeting, we would have our break more toward the middle rather than the beginning like we have been doing in Speechcraft. And what we do is we say, okay, we're going to break now after table topics, and we're going to meet together for a few minutes, and we're going to discuss what the individual speakers are going to be what they're trying to do to their evaluators and their genuine evaluators. they'll meet the timer and say, hey, I'm going to be speaking for 6 to 8 minutes today, that sort of thing. So the idea is we want to go ahead and grab our manuals. We all have competent communicators and advanced manuals. We want to say, hey, I'm going to be giving a presentation out of this manual. Could you spend the next couple of minutes reading over this project so that you know how to evaluate it? Evaluation guidelines and any concerns. So things like, hey, maybe this isn't a manual speech, but I've noticed that maybe my volume isn't very good, or my vocal variety isn't very good, and maybe I'm doing a few too many ahs and ums. If you could keep your ear open and listen to that so that I can improve upon those particular areas. During the speech, show that you're interested, pay attention to the person speaking. Luckily, I have everybody's eyes, so you guys are all doing a fantastic job with that. Put yourself in the position of the speaker. Think about how the idea is that you're trying to see things from their perspective as well. So not just from your perspective, but what are they trying to get across? Think about it that way. Take notes. If you're the evaluator, write some things down. During your evaluation, choose your words carefully. Evaluate the speech, not the person. What they're trying to say is, some of the tips they were saying were, don't say, try not to do too much. It's really weird, but it really works out. And I've actually seen this in other areas of my life. And when I was reading this presentation, I said, hey, I do that all the time because I thought about this. But instead of saying you, your, when you're trying to put things on the speaker, say, put it from your perspective. This is how I responded. I feel that. So you're not saying, you suck at that. You're saying, I felt that. The speech could have used more of this. You're not attacking the person or anything like that. So the person who's giving the speech is going to be sitting there going, he said, I felt that I didn't get enough vocal variety. I felt that it would have been more valuable if this had happened, rather than you stink at your attention givers. It doesn't come across as well. And then the person can hear it like, oh yeah, you're right. I guess when I think of it that way. And we're also, again, trying to promote self-esteem. We're trying to secure the positives and things like that. So if you don't tear them down too much, then it'll be a little more effective and a little more useful for the person. They won't dismiss you too much. Avoid being disingenuous. Sure, we want to be helpful and positive and things like that, but we don't want to drip with niceness and happiness. And like, boy, you sure are amazing, right? We don't want to be too silly with our disingenuity here. Honest evaluations are upbeat and encouraging while offering suggestions for improvement. You want to be critical, but not overly harsh. And we want to be positive to point out the things they're doing well, but we don't want to be too silly with our positivity. In closing, connect to your opening statement. If you had an opening statement in your evaluation saying, hey, great speech on this, we want to come back to saying what that amazing important point is. Great speech on cooking. Yeah, we're going to dive into the things about how we can improve and what we're dwelling within, but in general, I think that was a really good speech on cooking. And for 3 to 5 minutes, that's pretty good. Like, how do you jam some stuff into 3 to 5 minutes? That sort of thing. Summarize your key points. Go back to saying, your vocal variety could improve, or your gestures are getting a lot better. You're adding a lot more to your presentations outside of your speaking. Give a personal story or example. I think I've done that. Oh, I guess I didn't. I was going to, but I didn't. So what I said was, I had noticed that saying things like you and your are somewhat negative and hurtful in certain situations. When I'm trying to discuss a problem that I have with people in interpersonal communication, I try not to say you and your. So I don't want them to think it's your fault or you did something wrong. I want them to say, I'm being affected negatively in this way. And then they connect a little better. Encourage listeners to apply what they heard and what they learned. So anybody listening, not only are you talking to the person who's giving the presentation, but you're talking to everybody. And that's another great thing about Toastmasters in general here. You're all hearing an evaluation. Maybe you thought, maybe that thing didn't quite connect to you. Maybe the thing that I had said, or the thing that a speaker said didn't actually quite connect as being an area of improvement. But then when you heard the evaluator say, you're like, you know what, I think I can understand his standpoint. And some people in the audience might think they agree with that. So yeah, I guess I would work on that hard enough. All right. I don't know how this is supposed to work. Are we supposed to stop for clapping? I don't understand, but whatever. So thank you all for hearing my speech. Thank you very much. Now we'll slide over to the general evaluator to Today's general evaluator is Jesse Gould. Jesse was a longtime member, then disappeared for a while, and he's back, which is fantastic. If you could all give me a warm welcome and guide us through the evaluation for the meeting, is Jesse Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master,
I wasn't that good.
Coordinator, rather. So I'm supposed to give, as a general evaluator, thoughts on the Toastmaster, on table topics, and on the wise old owl if, rather, you're supposed to get the wise old owl.
Or Tony,
Or Tony. Okay.
because he was the tabletop last.
Yes. Sorry, guys. I'm still my thoughts on the evaluations and educational speeches. All right, so I got a bunch of notes here, so I got to read a little bit. I'm not supposed to apologize. I'm already doing a little bit bad here. My thoughts on the Toastmaster. Well, you always keep things going. You always have a positive, upbeat way of communicating things. You enunciate well. Your gestures are obviously always very animated. You had smooth handoffs on Table Topic Master. You had very specific to the tech part of TechMasters, which is always great and refreshing for someone like me because I don't like talking about too much other than tech. I liked William's off-topic thing on Arnold C, keeping it a little bit light, which is good. As far as participants, it's always great to have a guest speaker and then new folks joining us as well. And as far as the evaluators, I got a ton of notes here. Vince, you described the purpose as a general purpose and specific purpose, which is very informative. You didn't hold back, which is always good. That's why we're here, to learn. I noticed, or rather you had said that you noticed the body language, which was much more relaxed. So that's good that you have actual great actual examples, I should say. Thoughts on educational speeches. I wasn't quite sure if you said Jonathan was educational. No, sorry, I will. David obviously is very good to get you up here, and your gestures were very in your face, but then also some very, very good points. I never even thought of the whole thing of masking your nervousness, but it makes a lot of sense. But the 20%, 80%, yep, I've heard that before. But then you gave actual good examples too, with the running or the chopping, different things like that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And a little bit for Vince as well. I'm not seeing any time thing back there, so I'm gonna just keep going. Vince, you had good points on being constructive, giving constructive feedback, constructive criticism, the importance of immediate feedback. That's always good to kind of get a reminder of that. You had a little bit of a psychology lesson there with not being overly harsh and yet not being overly positive, and how the effects of that are. All right, and I think that's all I really have. And at this point, I'd like to call on the Table Topic Master to give the wise old owl.
Overall, I thought it was very interesting when we jumped back in and brought some of our normal people back into the mix, and it feels good to have some broad participation. I liked Jonathan, Muhammad, how you guys really got to the point of the question, just took the question and ran with it. William, love the humor. It's always fun to take a topic and bring in a little bit of humor. But for today's table topics, I want to give it to Loris, because Loris, you took the topic, this is tech, and let's address technology, and you did. But maybe not the tech that we're used to, or all of us as computer geeks and other types of related fields, that you took that and addressed tech. So, you give it some kind of
And it looks like I actually did most of the stuff down the line except for the timer report. And Mohammed, can you give us a time report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. For table topics, Jonathan was at 1 minute 16 seconds. Lars, you were at 1 minute 12. William, you were at 1 minute 13. I was at 1 minute 56. Jesse, you were at 59 seconds. For speeches, Jonathan, you were at 5:02, so just right there. Good work on the timing. Evaluations, Vince, you were at 2:44. Was very good. Dave, you were at 5 minutes and 16 seconds. And great speech, by the way. Loved it. Vince, your speech on evaluation was 7 minutes and 48 seconds. And that covers most of our timing for today.
Thank you, Mohammed. Like I said, I think I went through pretty much all the rest of these, although out of order. But welcome back our coordinator, Vince.
Great. In closing, a couple things here. So I'll be giving you guys your assignments. Well, one of you, and I'll be emailing the rest of them their assignments. And so we'll get to that in a minute here. But as far as closing, we're going to be closing. I'm going to give my 2 cents here a little bit. So yeah, it definitely wasn't quite as eventful as we were hoping from the participants. What happened here? There's some horrible accident somewhere. There's some 52-car pileup where half of our Speechcraft members are dead or something. Anybody know anything? Is there an Ebola outbreak I should be worried about? But whatever it is, we'll get on it more. Maybe I need to send a second reminder. But whatever. So we'll try to hopefully get more people in. But I would say it was a little more relaxed, and like Tony said, it's nice to get everybody else involved instead of having to sit back and watching. So that was nice. And I feel like it was a lot more relaxed than, for example, I was worried my speech was going to have to be taken down in 5 minutes, and I was like, good, I get to give you more examples and speak a little more slowly, that sort of thing. So with that, I'm going to ask the timer for a closing thought.
Get very good at what you love to do, because you can never get good enough at something you're not suited for.
Makes a lot of sense, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting. And Will?
Could I have 1 minute?
Yes, you can.
There's something that I wanted to.
Closing announcements. Will?
Not really an announcement, just something I wanted to go over that was so-called pounded into me by Paul, our past member. That is giving awards. The way to properly give an award, because I noticed that I do it, some of us, I've seen us do it, we get up to win. That's awkward. So, somebody ding me for saying so. The correct way to do it is come up with this little mnemonic: take and shake. So take with your left, hold it, shake with your right. Take and shake. And if you're in the military, you turn for a photo. Take, left hand. Yep, left hand. Yep. And shake. Take left hand and shake.
Yeah, I think my worry was that I was always shaky and taking. So we're going to do take shake.
And shake.
I was always shake take. But it's take shake.
Take shake.
Take shake.
Take and shake. Take and shake. Take and shake.
Okay, William's
I'll
now
take
going
that
to lead
now.
us.
Let's see if he's paying attention.
William's now going to lead us in aerobics.
Thank you for the 1 minute, proper 1 minute Toastmaster. 1 minute Toastmaster is a role that we have been shooting during Speechcraft, but of course we have an extra minute, so I might as well use it, right? And what it is we take a minute, we bring up one small little tidbit that has been on our mind, something we thought of, that will help improve the club meetings, especially if we've been getting it wrong. So for example, here's your award, take it with your wrong hand, and then we'll shake. So one more time, put it in your left hand, offer it to the person, they grab it, and they take it, and then you shake their hand at the same time, and turn for a photo. Great. All right, any other announcements before we close the meeting here?
Could I just do a follow-up on the whole, I've noticed that, in addition to the, awkward take and shake, the lack of any explanation as to why the award was given, like, I'm gonna give the wise old owl to so-and-so.
Yep, when the especially the wise old owl is one of the more generic ones where you can kind of say it in whatever way you want. You can give it to whomever you want for whatever reason you want. So, for example, I one time gave it to somebody because I'm trying to remember the reason, but it was something to the effect of, oh yes, I got to talk about how, or I got to speak. Or the other person was answering my tabletop's question by saying that Woody Allen sucks and that he's a bad person. So I said, it doesn't even matter that the other answers were great. The fact that you talked about how gross and disgusting of a person Woody Allen was is why you win. So whatever your justification is, you answered the question very well, or you got the timing perfectly, or you incorporated the word of the day, which we don't have today, but we typically do when we have premiering in a normal typical meeting, but in Speechcraft we're shooting that world because we don't have time today to do. Anyway, so you something like that, or you give them a specific word picture or something like that. Whatever the reason is, either tell them that, and if you have anything beforehand to say, like, if you go off topic, I'm not going to give you the award, Mike Benkovich, then they'll know, okay, I guess I better not go off topic, right? All right, any other announcements? All right, with that, I will adjourn the meeting.